I'll go ahead and share my screen. We released this a couple days ago out to public beta, certainly worth a try. I will say I force quit all my tabs from this weekend, but let me go ahead and show you what we've got here. So maybe I'm looking at a package, runtime named locks. This is a package we have on pub.dev, but from a consumer side, you're just, Google searching for a package and you're going to scroll it a little bit. And you're going to be, jumping through this. And basically, you don't know if you're going to need this or not later, but you're working in a project and perhaps, you're thinking about solving this problem around cross-process coordination, right? So this package might be important to you. But at this point in time, I haven't actually saved anything to Pieces. So, saving something to Pieces, right, and thinking that you might need this later is a proactive muscle. And oftentimes, I know I've mentioned this before, but developers don't realize they should have saved something or should have taken more detailed notes until they realize they didn't. And so, because that's a muscle you have to develop over time, and that's learned through a lot of hard lessons, we said, can we augment this, right? Can we accelerate, what is captured so you don't have to be super, super aware in the note-taking process. Pieces can just realize, hey, you might need this later. And similarly, like you're in Gchat, this is our infrastructure chat. We're going back and forth. We're talking about some pull requests. We're talking about some changes that might have affected things and so on, right? And so again, I'm just going about my day as I usually would, and Pieces is kind of keeping up with all this stuff. So in this latest release, we effectively rolled out something called the Workstream Pattern Engine, which powers a feature in our Copilot chats called live context. And the Workstream Pattern Engine is basically continuously shadowing and remembering what's important across your entire operating system. And I will note this is available on Mac OS, Linux, and Windows, which is pretty exciting. And so it's saying, what's going on horizontally as I do my work. And then if I come in and I have a question about what I've been up to recently or what I've been up to in the past, Pieces will have that captured. So if I go and kind of show some other types of chats, you can see like the suggested prompts here are around generating a bit of code versus if I go and I start a new chat around, my live context, the questions are different. It's like, where did I recently leave off with my work? Give me a refresher of who I was collaborating with earlier. Summarize what I was up to in my recent work stream, like all these temporally focused questions. And so I can come in here and I can just ask a question, and I'll just, again, show the browser here super quick. I can ask a question about this package that I'm looking at. So I'll jump over to the Pieces Copilot and I can say, summarize what I was researching in the browser related to named, I think, locks and named native semaphores. So I'll just ask you a question, right? And I don't have to copy and paste that web page. I don't have to have a browser integration or anything like that. Pieces is just aware that this was some research I was doing. It's got that captured, and it's going to generate a response here saying, we've got the name locks and runtime native semaphores. So those are two packages that are highly related. Platform support, it knows it's on Mac OS, Linux, and Windows. I can even ask it more specific questions such as, and again, this is like later on down in the page, right? Some of the API stuff, but I can go ahead and ask it, what are the key elements in the native semaphore API? And I'll just ask it a question, right? What are the key elements in the API, right? And that just picked it up from that documentation just as I would have when I was reading it. And so here we go. It's going to give me the constructor, some methods, lock, unlock, etc., dispose. Pieces has all this captured, and it's doing this in real time. So to give you another idea of how this might be pretty interesting, I can go over to some unit tests, for example. And right here, I can throw an error. So we'll throw exception. This is test for the live context in Pieces Copilot. And I just typed this code out. I'm going to go ahead and run this test inside of IntelliJ. So we've got some tests that are going on. And you can see in this file, semaphore reentrant test at these lines, we threw the exception, which was expected, right? So this is a test for the live context in Pieces. So I can jump over to Pieces, and without having to paste that stack trace or without having to paste the code from the file or anything like that, I can say, what is going on with the error I just got in IntelliJ when running my unit test?
Someone is saying, how is it possible? What about privacy?
Yeah, everything here. Yeah, it's a great question. And of course, true to the Pieces philosophy, everything here is designed to run on device and air gapped. So right now I'm using GPT-4o. That said, as that's generating, I can actually use the on device model like Phi2 or Mistral or something like that. And then all the processing, the storage, the memory of all this, interpreting what's going on across the operating system, all of that is actually happening locally. So I'll go ahead and just show this super quick. But every single person who uses Pieces, they'll have this com.pieces.os folder. And inside of that, you'll have all of your databases, your formats, your messages, etc. In addition to the workstream summaries and so on. So all of that data is on device. It's being locally queried, locally, analyzed and embedded and so on to provide context for this Copilot chat. So right there, as I mentioned, it says what's going on with this error. And it says, basically in this file, semaphore reentrant test.dart, this is a test for the live context in Pieces Copilot. So it knows what's going on. Looks like we have a little bit of a formatting error, but we'll get that fixed. No worries. And then it's going to go ahead and say, maybe generate some code to say, this is how you avoid that test. And so, yeah, it's going to give some possible causes, some next steps, and so on. And it'll, of course, give you, some suggested follow-up questions as well. So that's an idea about how, live and real time this thing is. And we're doing this across all those operating systems, Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, using a variety of machine learning and traditional algorithms. One of the last things that I'll demo here, and this is one of my kind of favorites, is just I can't remember every single chat and every single conversation that's going on inside of Gchat, but Pieces can, right? So I can pop over to Pieces and I can say, what was Mark and Nathan talking about in infrastructure? If I can type Gchat this or yesterday. And I'll ask a question. And let's see what we get back here. I meant to say what were, but English is relative. So you can see right here, issues with a Sparkle update. We've got a specific commit that's hyperlinked. We've got some error details, environment issues, staging versus production, and so on. So, really, really nice to have Pieces just be aware of everything that's going on, both in passing and given your current context. And this can be from a per application basis. This can be from a, specific time range. So you could say, what were all the live streams that I did with Kunal last year? And Pieces will know, basically all the live streams, right? And this is what we're talking about when it comes to extending my short and long-term memory in a very passive yet proactively helpful capacity. And so I'll go ahead and pause the demo there.